Hello, this is Mark Zabatella from Outside Shore Music, home of Mastering MuseScore. In this week's tip, I'm going to show you how you can install and use third-party music fonts in MuseScore Studio. This is a new feature as of version 4.6. So when I talk about music fonts, I'm not talking about the text like the title and the tempo and all these other markings in your score that are just ordinary text. I'm talking about the font used for things like clefs, used for things like the accidentals, the note heads, all these actual music symbols, rests, and the time signature. This is all part of a music font, and there's a standard called SMuFL, SMuFL, Standard Music Font Layout, it stands for. And any font that adheres to that standard can be used in MuseScore Studio. And there's not a ton of fonts in this format, but there's it's a relatively new standard, like within the last 10 years, and now that most programs support it, there's more and more fonts becoming available, and MuseScore lets you use them. So let's go ahead and take a look at how we're going to get one of these, and then how we might actually use it within MuseScore. So the first thing you're going to need to know is you're going to need to find yourself a font, right? So if you already have one, great. If not, you can go to smufl.org and click on fonts there, and it will take you to this page that lists at least some of the available fonts. Bravura was the first one. That was sort of the that is part of MuseScore. It's already pre-installed in MuseScore. But that's when the standard SMuFL was first invented. Bravura was the font created to demonstrate it. So November is a font that's actually a commercial font. It's a paid font. Petaluma is pre-installed within MuseScore. Leland, that's the default score in MuseScore. It is in SMuFL format. And then Sebastian is one we're going to actually take a look at. By the way, there's also not all of, but a lot of the old Finale fonts have been released as open source in SMuFL format, and there's other commercial fonts available, and there's others not on here. You can do a web search to find more. But we're going to take a look at Sebastian, all right? So when you do that, if you go, like it says, go to the font's GitHub page, you will find a page that looks something like this, and you will click on the zip file to download that to your computer. When you do that and open the zip file, you're going to find three files that are relevant here within it. There's the Sebastian.otf, that's OpenType format, Sebastian text.otf, and this the text font it still contains the musical symbols, but it contains the musical symbols in a way that allows you to use them within text. So you will want both of those fonts, and then you will want this file here that says JSON. This one is what tells MuseScore that this is in fact a music font and to use it accordingly. So this is going to get a little technical, and I can't show you all the details because it's very dependent on the system. But once you have that zip file, go ahead and unzip it into whatever folder you want to unzip it into, but then you need to install those fonts. Now, on most systems, you can just double-click an OTF file, and it will install the font for you. If not, on your system, you might have to copy it to a special fonts folder. You'll have to look up the details of how to do that in your operating system, but usually just double-clicking it does it. It's the JSON file that we've got to find out where to put this thing. So I'm going to show you the instructions, and then you can kind of sort out for your system. There's basically two ways of installing it. One is system-wide, so it'll apply to all users if you have multiple users on your computer, and there's another user-specific location. If you install it for all users, you need to have admin privileges. On Windows, the location is what says Common Program Files. That is this folder here, C:\Program Files, Common Files. And underneath that folder, you'll need to create a subfolder called SMuFL, capitalized like that, capital S-M, lowercase u, capital F-L, and then fonts with a capital F, I'm actually not sure that the capitalization matters on Windows, but you might as well enter it that way. And then you'll create a subfolder for the name of the font, and then you'll copy the JSON file into there. On Mac OS, the folder is library application support, and then again you'll create a SMuFL folder within that, a fonts folder within that, and a folder called Sebastian or whatever your font name is underneath that. On Linux, it's a little more complicated. The folder name is given by this environment variable, and it's probably something like on my Linux system. If I actually look at that environment variable, it is a whole list of things, but .local share is where it can go, but there's other places it could possibly go: user local share, user share, etc. So little techie, but you have to be able to do a little bit of moving files around to make all this work. So once you find the right location to put that JSON file, that's the system-wide location. Or if you don't have admin privileges or just want to just make sure it's installed for you only, you can put it in this local file or this local folder, which on Windows is users, your name, app data, local. On Mac OS, it's your home folder, library application support, and on Linux, it's going to be that .local one. So once you do that, again, you'll create a SMuFL folder within it, fonts folder within that, folder for the name of your font within that, and then copy your JSON file there. Sorry that it is complicated. It doesn't take long to do this. You just have to sort out what these folders are. And so the link here is in the description to this. Once your file is in there, though, it's done and everything's good. You might have to restart MuseScore. But once you've done that, once you've gotten your file in there, actually using the font is simple. So here is my score reunion. Using the default Leland font. If I go to Format, Style, and then on the main Score tab here, you'll see Leland is the font selected here, and because I've installed Sebastian, I can now just click Sebastian and watch what happens to the clef, key signature, and time signature when I click it. There you go. They changed. It's a different font, right? It's not a dramatically different font. There's all sorts of other fonts you can get. There's different handwritten fonts and different engraved fonts that you could potentially use. Let's just take a look at this. If you can kind of see the difference a little more here. Take a look at this when I do an undo and watch what happens to that first measure. Can you see it looks different? Let me redo it again. I think you can tell the clef especially looks different, right? So anyhow, that is how you can install and use a SMuFL font, a third-party font that adheres to the SMuFL standard in MuseScore Studio. I should clarify that SMuFL, I keep calling it a format. It's not a format per se. It's a standard that either OTF or TTF, open type format, and true type format. Either of those formats will work if the font adheres to the SMuFL standard. So you'll have to make sure it's a SMuFL version of an OTF or TTF font, and it will have that JSON file, and you just copy that to the appropriate folder. And once you've gotten that under control, it is really easy to use within MuseScore Studio.